All right, welcome everyone to Northern Neck Friday night J6 Vigil. It is August 2nd, 2024. This is day 1304.
Fahrenheit, 1,300.
And a shout out to the DC Vigil that just had on August 1st their 2-year anniversary, and then they're going to have a big celebration on tomorrow.
Go to DC if you have time.
Yeah, so
Warm.
let's kick it off, and as usual, Heavenly Father, as always, please keep the families, the loved ones, the children especially. Help them to understand and get through this process while their parents and typically their fathers are locked up and they don't understand why. And may they be reunited sooner than later. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So it's been a hot week out here in Virginia. It's been a hot week in DC. I'm sure you've been tuning into the vigils up there. I've caught a couple of them, and people are wearing very summery kind of loose outfits just to, keep cool. They're out there every single night. I mean, it's kind of an effort for us to come out here on Friday nights. We're really good at doing it. We kind of got it into a routine, but they do it every single night. And so our shout out to Mickey, Tammy, Nicole, and every other supporter who's out there with them. And then the other thing is on Fridays especially, so many of those folks up there and others from around the region go in and they visit with J6ers. And we hear that from the callers talking about how nice it is to just sit down with somebody, sometimes a total stranger, but just to talk to them and have somebody, had a little spice in their routine. So that goes a long, long way. So thank you to all you people that do that. And you know who you are, and you make that effort to go to DC, to go through that process, to be there. And maybe it's something that we'll give a try here one of these days. But so you want to talk about upcoming sentences? You mentioned a few things that changed, and I know we've got at least one next week.
Yes, we do. So a lot of changes in sentencings. Ryan Jackson so far is still on for next August 6th, next week at 10 o'clock. David Dempsey, August 9th at 12:30. But few have moved to the end of October and November, so and that may change again too, but they've been moving them to late in the year. I don't know why, closer to the election. But Brian Smith now is October 7th, and Jonathan Copeland is now November 22nd. We had a few people that have location changes. That's, I guess, worth mentioning. Christopher Quaglin's now in Oklahoma City. Jonathan Munafo is now in Berlin, New Hampshire. Guy Reffitt is in Tampa, Florida. John George Todd III is in Lexington, Kentucky. Gregory Yetman is in Philadelphia. So Yetman just left a couple of days ago, so he's in Philadelphia. And last week we had a call to action by all the guys who were calling in. Well, we won the call to action, and so they will not place non-J6ers into the Patriot Pod. And so they will resume the activities as they normally have been. So it'll be the J-Pod, and they don't have to lock their doors or anything. So it does help for everybody to call in, send the email, and it did work. So congratulations to us.
Yeah, really. I mean, that's awesome, Cheryl, and thank you for putting that out there and helping to spread the word, because, that was a big deal. That would have been a huge deal. They were very concerned about it from what I gathered. So, yeah. I do have some kind of sad news. It seems like things are ramping up again in terms of arrests this last week. So as I always say to folks, this is one of my go-to places is NPR J6. Just do a search for NPR J6.
Tom Brady and all see you as fanatics, fan fest, and life.
And this gets updated every Friday at about 5:30 or so. And I looked on here tonight, to my surprise, there were 8 new arrests since last week. First one just jumped out to me and whacked me beside the head. Kathleen DeVries, Devries, 76 years old, Solomons, Maryland. She was arrested on July 30th, 2024 in Washington, D.C. Her charges are the usual minor charges, although I believe, I'll have to look at that again, but
Gotta get the grandmas in there now.
got to get the grandmas. Disorderly conduct. Yeah, so she doesn't have it. So I don't believe she got any felonies because she did the one felony that they kind of twist is interfering or here it is, or obstruction of law enforcement during a civil disorder. So she basically went in and walked around. So I'm going to show everybody the picture. This is I just call her the lady with the 3 hats. Picture of her here wearing a Trump cowboy hat. In fact, she had a couple extras that she was carrying around. In this one picture, she's got one in her hand, or 2 in her hand, and 1 on her head. But yeah, red, white, and blue cowboy hats. And she basically walked in, walked around, took a couple pictures. She was in Nancy Pelosi's office, but didn't take any photos in there or touch anything. And the thing that I want to point out to you, she was interviewed by the FBI on January 25th, 2021. So, 3.5 years later, she gets picked up. I mean, and that's a pattern you're gonna hear here tonight. Next one, Matthew Thomas. The guy's missing some vowels. I'll do my best so I'll do my best to pronounce his last name. McGledge, M-G-L-E-J. Thomas McGledge. Matthew Thomas McGledge. And that's a tongue twister. He was arrested on August 1st, yesterday. Maurice, what's this word? You're from that area. Tualatin, Oregon?
Oh, Tualatin.
Tualatin, Oregon? Yeah. He was interviewed by the FBI on August 29th of 2022. So, 2 years ago, just under. Next one, Paul Marvin Noel, 44 years out of Wendell, North Carolina. He was known as Bolo 452. If you don't know what Bolo is, be on the lookout. Isn't the FBI cool with their acronyms? That is really cool. But I've been
able to convert the entire English language to acronyms.
acronyms. But I remember Quagga talking about Bolo, and I knew it. He was 58? Yeah, Bolo 58. So this is Bolo 452. And they, again, go in there and read the charging documents on these people. It's very interesting. And you can kind of see how they go about their investigation and how they get at them. But, some of these guys are turned in by informants or by other people who have been interrogated or investigated by the FBI. Hey, John Haynes. Are you there?
Yeah.
Hey, John, how are you tonight?
Good, Tom. And yourself?
Great. So, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay. It made a beep. Yeah, it's the three of us so far, just getting started, and yeah, it's great that you called in. So, what do you got for us tonight?
Well, there's something I think I'd mentioned to you earlier today as far as Act Blue. I don't know if all the listeners are familiar with them, but they're a leftist organization heavily involved in vote rigging. And it came out today that attorneys general from Virginia, Missouri, and the Secretary of State of Wyoming have all simultaneously launched investigations into Act Blue over allegations of a money laundering scheme. And in fact, there's a brand new article up on Gateway Pundit that goes into it, and they cite one individual who supposedly donated 4,820 individual times in 2022. And this person claims she has no idea what they're talking about. So, this has been bubbling up in the background for a while. And I've actually got a copy of the letter itself. I don't know if you want me to read part of it. It's a page and a half. And of course, you never know when calls are going to come in. Or if any of you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer those also. But, I'll just take your lead.
Well, I think you can read it, John. I did get a copy of it. Thank you. I guess maybe a little more background on what Act Blue did in the last go-around in the last election, and maybe that tees up what we're trying to do again.
Okay. Anyway, you want to go ahead and proceed?
Yes. Yeah, that'd be fine.
Well, I'm getting some echo, so unfortunately I'm having a little trouble understanding you.
All right.
But anyway, I'll go ahead as long as you can hear me. That's
Yep.
That should be sufficient. All right. This is from Jason Miele. He's the Attorney General of Virginia. Dear Act Blue, my office has become aware of multiple serious allegations that Act Blue Civics Incorporated, and Act Blue Charities Incorporated have engaged in fraudulent, deceptive, and/or otherwise illegal activities in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and/or have aided and abetted others in doing so. This includes hundreds of thousands of dollars of contributions to individual donors in the Commonwealth in volumes that are facially implausible and appear suspicious. Some of these Virginia donors are reported as making multiple daily contributions over the course of multiple years, accounting to tens of thousands of dollars in aggregate. Furthermore, some of these individuals are senior citizens, list their occupations as not employed or retired, and/or list suspicious addresses. Taken together, these circumstances appear to indicate that contributions via Act Blue are being made from fictional donors or dummy accounts, or that information reported by or through Act Blue may be fraudulent. Alternatively, these circumstances may indicate that contributions via Act Blue are being made without the reported donor's consent or awareness. Accordingly, these contributions and Act Blue's facilitation thereof may violate multiple provisions of Virginia charitable and criminal law, and then they go on to cite 10 different specific code violations. I'm not going to make you sit while I read through them. Additionally, the aforementioned suspicious contributions may implicate other provisions of Virginian federal law. My office is aware that Act Blue acts as a conduit for political candidates in Virginia, and that some of these contributions may have been directed to Virginia candidates. For the reasons mentioned above, these contributions may also violate multiple provisions of Virginia's campaign finance laws, and they cite several other laws. Furthermore, contributions to federal candidates and committees, I'm going to have to scroll down, if made in the name of another, may violate multiple provisions of the Federal Election Campaign Act, 52 U.S.C., blah, blah, blah. The citizens of the Commonwealth of Virginia deserve to know that nonprofit and political entities are financed in a legal manner, and that entities operating in Virginia are legitimately and legally raising funds. To undermine those concerns is to undermine the integrity of our elections and charities. Publicity is not just commended as a remedy for social and industrial diseases. Sunlight is said to be the best of disinfectants, electric light the most efficient policeman. And that's a quote from Buckley, a legal case. This is the final paragraph. For the foregoing reasons, it is imperative that you provide my office with detailed description of ActBlue's processes and procedures for verifying the legitimacy and accuracy of donor and contribution information, as well as the processes and procedures used in verifying information reported to regulatory bodies. Given the seriousness of these allegations, I expect to receive your substantive response by August 12th, 2024, signed Jason S. Miaris. So they've got 10 days to respond. And considering the volume of accusations, I think response is highly unlikely.
Well,
John, thanks for reading that. And are you aware of Jason Miaris? Actually, this seems like maybe one of the first things he's really come out to do, a really substantive thing with his office. I mean, I haven't heard much coming out of his office in this whole time.
No, in fact, I really consider him to be a major disappointment. I thought when he was running, he indicated he would be much more aggressive than he's actually been. So I'm not sure what the deal is, but the fact that several states are filing simultaneously, I think you're going to be seeing more states coming aboard. And I think this might be the single largest election money scandal in recent years. We're talking about nationwide billions of dollars.
Right.
And they're finding out that ActBlue was active in pretty much every state. So I think this is, hopefully there'll be enough time to dig deeper into this before the election. But I think all the dominoes are starting to fall now, and it looks like it's gaining momentum.
Yeah, that's great. I remember, was it Project Veritas? Did some exposés on some of these folks, and they would go to these addresses, and an elderly person would come to the door, and they'd ask them, have you contributed $8,000? And they're like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. Get out of here. Well, it says you've done it day after day and time after time. So yeah, that's a big deal. And then I think I told you earlier that I had heard, I haven't verified this, but I thought I had heard that there's the potential that some money that has been, maybe collected for other purposes is getting diverted through ActBlue in this way. And that's how they're kind of laundering the money to get it to where they want to use it.
Yeah, and as you well know, I've reported a lot on this, and there was a lot of documented cheating in the last presidential election. So this really shouldn't come as a surprise. And you're right, Project Veritas, although I think they were actually dissolved. I think O'Keefe's operating under a different name.
It's OMG.
Yeah. But anyway, he was one of the very first ones that really dug into this deeply. As well as, I can't think of their name right now, the other organization that's been so effective, True to Vote. True to Vote has also dug into this quite a bit. So, hopefully this will have a big effect not only on this election, but on future elections.
Right.
So, anyway, if anybody doesn't have any questions, there is one last thing, kind of a public service announcement I wanted to make, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, now you already know about this, but coming in October, the Northumberland Republican Party is having a big Trump fundraiser. And the Sentinel is assisting them in promoting it. We're going to be running a half-page ad that we donated this month. And then they've already purchased a full-page ad for this coming, for October. No, September, I apologize, for September. And all the usual suspects will be there, Whitman, Pugh, one I'm interested in. I don't know if you've had a chance to listen to him, but he's very eloquent. But anyway, I just wanted to help spread the word about that. It's going to be $20 admission, and that includes food and whatever. And just to make sure, so Maurice doesn't have to ask me later, they will have adult beverages for sale.
Very
So,
$20 per person.
yeah. Well, the $20 I think is just the ticket and some food, and they have music.
Right.
And then you can buy, they're also going to have food carts and I think beer and wine, which, you know, will be for purchase.
And a good band.
So, yeah. Well, I just wanted to spread the word. They had 1,200 people last year for the oyster roast, and it was a horrible rainstorm that day. So I suspect it's going to be pretty heavily attended. I just wanted to give them a early shout out. They, I'd say of all the local Republican committees, they're the most active,
Yes, we
and
are.
I think you guys know that.
Yep.
You know, especially, well, you know, I know at least 3 of you there are Northumberland residents, so I'm sure you know.
Right.
But anyway, hopefully they'll have a good turnout, and I certainly plan on being there.
We will be there too.
I think we'll see you there, for sure. And that's on
Well-
October 12th.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. In fact, I don't know if I've done it yet, Tom, but I'll send you a copy of their flyer, and then you can distribute it among the Northern Net Patriots if you choose to. So anyway, but that's kind of all I had, unless anybody has any questions.
Look forward to the new edition of the Sentinel coming out next week. Do you have anything there you want to talk about, that highlight there?
Well, we're going to have a lot. We're going to talk about Trump's assassination attempt, of course, and we're also going to have an article about Kamala Heals Up Harris, tracing her illustrious career. And there's going to be a big article that I think will interest a lot of people on how all these local public schools are manipulating the composite index and state funding with these non-resident student programs. I don't know if you're all aware, but up till, I'd say 10 years ago, none of this was allowed. But I don't have time to go into details, but I consider it actually to be a form of fraud.
It is.
What they're doing basically is taking students from jurisdictions that are receiving state money based on where they live, and then they're actually attending schools in other areas. So it totally screws up and reverses the whole purpose of the funding formula. And as you know, in most states, it's illegal to attend, anywhere that you don't actually reside. And most Virginia counties have their own prohibition of those types of things. So anyway, I think that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. I've been talking to some supervisors directly lately, and I think they're getting fed up. And of course, a lot of this, almost all of it, is fueled by the overfunding of our. So I know the supervisors in Northumberland have gotten active, and it looks like Essex County is starting to dig into some of this too. So hopefully that'll help. I know that a lot of the members of the Northern Net Patriots have been very active in trying to keep an eye on the schools, and I think it's had a good effect. So, on a hopeful note, I just hope we'll have more of the same in the future. But that's pretty much it. Other than that, we'll have a lot of interesting things. The King George article, there's a picture of Trump raising his fist up that was put up just a couple days afterwards at the Northern Net Parks store there in King George. And it's had a tremendous reaction. In fact, that may be something the Patriots may want to look at, purchasing one of those. I know we have a couple signs that Larry Hinson and Sherry Pitts have control of, and that might be a possibility, put one of those up there.
Yeah.
So anyway, just food for thought. And, you know, one last thing I would say, a lot of people that want to help the J6ers, me being one of them, that's the reason I'm pushing this election so hard. Because if there's one thing that will undoubtedly help the J6ers more than anything else I can think of, it's getting Trump back in the White House.
Yep.
If he somehow loses, I hate to even think the effect it's going to have on our beloved J6 community. So,
Yep.
Anyway, I think we all need to keep the pedal to the metal until November. And I'd like to salute all of you for your efforts. I know how much time you put into it, and I know how much the J6ers appreciate it. So keep up the good work.
Well, same to you, John. Thanks a lot, and thanks for calling, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
All right, good night. So,
I keep going here real quick. I was talking about Paul Marvin Noel, Bolo 452. He was surveilled at his home on May 1st, 2023. They confronted him at his home on March 12th of 2024. They used the word confronted. They attempted to interview him. He basically said, I'm not going to talk without a lawyer and I don't know anything. So, but then they didn't arrest him until July 31st. Now, do you see the pattern here? These people know. They're walking around with this.
Psychological manipulation.
It's psychological manipulation. It's a fear tactic, exactly what it is. Go ahead.
And they do that, they'll, like about once every 90 days for a year or so, they'll stop by and let you know they're looking into you. But by the time they make their first contact, they've already got a case, if they're gonna make one at all.
Yeah, and so again, these are all the same sort of things, so the typical 4 misdemeanors. This next one, Tristan, there's 8 of them, so I'm halfway through. Tristan Sartor, 26 years old from Ruffsdale, Pennsylvania. They surveilled him last July of 2023, and they picked him up on July 31st of 2024. Lots of photos of him in there at the Capitol and so on. Next one, Nicholas Walden Smotherman from Mount Juliet, Tennessee, arrested August 2nd in Nashville. I want to point that out. One of the things in the charging documents is an ad that was put out by Sedition Hunters. Y'all have heard of the Sedition Hunters, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know this person? At Sedition Hunters, FBI Gov wanted capital violence. And that was one of the ways they figured out who he was and got that back. So, you know, those old Sedition Hunters, I guess they think they're doing a great thing here. Maybe Mr. Trump will come looking for them. Next one, Jason Robert Tasker, 43 years old, Glendale, Arizona. Arrested July 30th of this year, July 30th, 2024. Michael Keith Williams, 43 years old, from Point, Texas, arrested on July 30th. And Mark Christian Robluski, arrested on July 21st in San Diego. So they're not slowing down. In fact, that's 8. That's more than one a day in a week. Couple of good things, though. A couple of positive things I want to talk about. On July 23rd, this past month, July 23rd, 2024, the Committee on the House Administration Subcommittee on Oversight, Chairman Barry Loudermilk, I think you all probably are following him, he's been asking the right questions. He wrote the United States Capitol Police Chief Thomas Manger to request records and information relating to the Capitol Police investigation into the gallows that was assembled on the Capitol grounds on January 6th. Now, if you all remember the gallows, which was about 3 2x4s that was tacked together in a tiny little fake-looking noose thing that suddenly appeared in the wee hours of the morning. In fact, it says on the morning of January 6th, a group of unidentified individuals constructed a gallows on the Capitol grounds between 6:30 a.m. and 7:15 a.m. that morning. And approximately 1 o'clock The group returned to the site of the partially erected gallows and completed its construction by adding the crossbeam and a noose made of bright orange rope. And then they left. Now, for some reason, the FBI has not been able to find these 3 individuals.
Say it isn't so.
They still have no suspects. And so basically, Loudermilk wrote a letter to Thomas Major on July 22nd, and that was a news press for July 23rd, press release. So he's asking them to provide all emails, text messages, chat messages, or other communications to or from Capitol Police personal accounts regarding the response to the discovery of the gallows erected on the grounds. So that's good. They're asking some questions. This one is what I consider, though, to be the bombshell. This is a document, it's entitled a retaliation document sent to Congress on July 31st, sent to the Honorable Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, Honorable Barry Loudermilk, Brian Steele, Chairman, Ron Johnson, Deborah Fisher, and Anthony Esposito. Dear Mr. Speaker and respected members, I submit this document as a whistleblower and affirmatively request appropriate whistleblower protection. This document is being offered to the appropriate oversight entities for the purpose of making allegations of misconduct and to provide evidence of malfeasance and other improper conduct at the highest levels of the United States Capitol Police and within the Capitol Police Office of the Inspector General. These include allegations of criminal and grossly unethical conduct. The goal in writing this document is to present allegations and overwhelming evidence of unethical and illegal conduct sufficient to allow the United States Congress to investigate and corroborate these allegations. Ultimately, this will initiate the essential reform needed within U.S. Capitol Police leadership, OIG, legal offices, and oversight entities. I hope the implementation of this reform will start with a public admission of guilt, an apology by the U.S. Capitol Police Chief, and appropriate settlement for all victims of sustained misconduct. So the allegations are that Chief Thomas Major and other members of the U.S. Capitol Police have and continue to retaliate against January 6 U.S. Capitol Police whistleblowers and obstructed U.S. Congress's rightful oversight of the Capitol Police. So there is a handful, not just 1 or 2, we're talking a dozen or so whistleblowers. Now remember, there's several Capitol Police and DC Metro Police that somehow committed suicide in the weeks after January 6th. Not saying that's related, but it's of interest, isn't it, that these people just seem to be so at odds with what happened that day. But there are other people who've come forward and made complaints, and they're being retaliated on by their own chain of command. Reese, you look like you want to say something. If not, I'll just keep going.
I was going to let you finish.
Well, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I want to give people the gist of this, so I'm going to read just a couple more allegations. The OIG conducted a fraudulent investigation of USP whistleblowers and created a fraudulent report on the retaliation to deceive the Congress and to conceal criminal and inappropriate actions they committed along with that of executive level members of the Capitol Police. That's a strong allegation. Chief Major utilized this manufactured OIG report to support a false public narrative. The Inspector General was encouraged to retire for violating the law for failing to protect U.S. Capitol Police whistleblowers and exposing their identities to U.S. Capitol Police senior leaders, which directly triggered the retaliation. The compromised OIG then conducted a sham investigation and created a false report on these whistleblowers to cover up all parties' unlawful violations of regulations and law. And I could go on and on. There's a timeline, there's evidence, it's 15 pages, and it is signed. Remember, this is a whistleblower asking for whistleblower protection, but you can kind of figure it out. It is signed, very respectfully, redacted, retired Deputy Chief, U.S. Capitol Police.
So there's an underlying current here. You know, you remember back in the day when you were lucky to get one whistleblower. I think we had a small handful of them over the 2020 election, but the number didn't grow. This number here is growing, and it's going to be like a snowball. It's that.
What is it? It's too high.
Just the volume. Gain is too high.
Megabase is what it was.
Yeah, so Everybody's heard that thing where a patriot is hard to find, but then once he starts gaining traction, they start coming out of the woodwork. Well, we've got a large number of whistleblowers going on here, and it's going to start snowballing. Not only will it snowball within that specific organization, but once other organizations that are also involved with the cover-ups throughout this entire country, the whistleblowers are going to start coming out of the woodwork. Mark my words, they are going to start coming out of the woodwork, and multiple organizations are going to go down.
I think you're onto something with that, because this has been going on for quite some time, and there have been questions that have not been answered. And just was it Wednesday was National Whistleblower Day? That's the first.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's
So I
awesome.
think the timing of it's really good. That's the link at the bottom, Maurice, if you want to get it in the chat so people can look it up.
I'll go and do that.
But the other place you could, if you follow Tariq Johnson, T-A-R-I-K, Tariq, I think it's Tariq Johnson. He is the Capitol Police officer who wore the red MAGA hat. He didn't actually show up with it. He showed up without a hat or a helmet, or it was tossed off or whatever, and somebody put one on his head. And he continued to wear that, and it actually helped him to get through the crowd. He was trying to help escort other officers, in and out and around and so on. But aside from all the amazing work he's doing now, shedding light on everything that happened, he is the one who's directly responsible for evacuating the Congress and getting them out of there as more and more people came into the Capitol. He had been on the radio. He talks about the radio, their comms, their police radios, and there's a record there of everything that happened. And he specifically states different things and times that he asked for and received no responses back from Yogananda Pittman. He calls her out by name. She's a real problem. And she was the one who was directly responsible for the security briefings and letting people know what the heck was going on for January 6th. And funny thing was, as you see from a lot of these interviews or clips from police cameras, the Capitol Police walking around clearly aggravated, saying this was a setup. They set us up. There's no way that we were prepared for this. So Tariq Johnson has continued to shine a light, and he's a brave man. He's no longer a Capitol policeman, and every day he's on X, and he's continuing this battle and this fight. And if you go to his Twitter handle, you can find links to this document, and they're spreading it around. But pretty amazing. I'm very excited to see where that goes.
Anything you want to get in before we call?
Here's
I'm trying to dig this thing out.
a little something from Condemned USA, and I think folks are familiar with that. Trennis Evans at Condemned USA. And this just came out August 2nd, so that's today. Condemned USA and Jonathan Gross stand against government's ruthless prosecution of the vulnerable. Jonathan Gross is the attorney that he was actually a public defender for Chris Quaglin, and he told us about 10 other guys, I think, maybe more. He's partnered up with Condemned USA. In the face of unprecedented governmental overreach and stark injustice, Condemned USA and the dedicated pro bono counsel, Rabbi Jonathan Gross, I didn't know he was a rabbi, have stepped up to defend Trevor Brown, a young man with diagnosed mental disabilities. Their unwavering commitment shines as a pillar of righteousness and divine purpose, fighting against an administration intent on unjust persecution. Trevor Brown, a kind and sensitive young man, found himself caught up in the chaos of January 6th in the Western Tunnel area around 4 p.m. He was pushed to the front of the crowd, fell, and was nearly trampled to death. He was ultimately saved when police, along with Victoria White, pulled him to safety. Now, y'all know who Victoria White is. She's the lady that got beat about the head very severely multiple times with the police baton and just really traumatized, and she's dealing with that still today. But despite the mayhem, Trevor's call for peace and unity can be heard on video, highlighting his nonviolent stance amidst the turmoil. Trevor did not commit any violent acts that day. The government is fully aware of this, as well as his mental disabilities, confirmed by court-ordered competency evaluation. Despite a diagnosis from the Bureau of Prisons expert recognizing Trevor's mental disability, the government cruelly insists on charging him with a felony. This callous decision aims to pad their prosecution statistics, ignoring pleas for justice and compassion, a misdemeanor plea acknowledging Trevor's mental state, and the circumstances of his actions showing that the government prioritizes numbers over human decency and punitive measures over compassion. Amidst this bleak landscape, a significant victory has emerged. Over the government's objections, the court has allowed Trevor to present an insanity defense. This ruling could mean the difference between freedom and incarceration for Trevor. However, to mount a successful defense, an expert witness must be retained, costing between $5,000 and $10,000, an insurmountable sum for Trevor. Trevor stands alone in this battle without financial support or resources. This is where our community of faith and justice must intervene. Condemned USA, founded by Trennis Evans, a man known to never quit fighting for what is right, is committed to defending the defenseless and upholding God's work. Trennis Evans and Rabbi Jonathan Gross are calling for your support to help Trevor in his time of need. Rabbi Jonathan Gross, giving an extraordinary gift of his time and expertise, has stepped in to shield Trevor from this grave injustice, epitomizing selfless dedication and divine purpose. I've had the honor of meeting I didn't know he was a rabbi, but Jonathan Gross on several occasions, and he really, truly is a good person. As these men give of themselves, they ask you, the community, to give a little too. Your generous contribution will help secure the expert witness necessary to assert Trevor's insanity defense, granting him a fighting chance at justice and freedom. By donating, you're supporting Trevor and standing against a system that unjustly targets the most vulnerable among us. Let us unite in this righteous cause so that together we can make a profound difference in Trevor's life and demonstrate that compassion and justice can prevail. So the ask here is to donate today and join Condemned USA. I think that's just another cause of anything. I saw Trump I don't know when he did this little clip, but it was a fundraiser, and he said, anything you can send to help, but if you don't have it, don't send it. We'll do just fine. But if you have it, just, it's like every little bit does count. Every little bit really helps. So here's
Really good point.
to Trevor Brown.
Even a dollar.
Well, on that note, the other thing, you often hear the folks with the Give, Send, Go say, even if you can't contribute anything, please just repost it and spread it around, because somebody else who might not be aware of it might be able to. So
That's true.
that makes a difference.
Absolutely.
That's one of the things I do. If somebody actually asks me to forward their stuff, I won't. I don't do advertising for anybody, but if I see something that's good, I'll pass it along. But if you ask me, repost if you agree, no, I'm not doing that. I don't do that. But when I see things like, here, give $1 to the J6ers, here's a link, I'm gonna pass that one along. But I'm not gonna ask everybody else to. If they think it's good enough, they will.
Well, you haven't read it before, probably.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I was just wanted to know if you think it'd be a good idea to read it.
It would be a good idea to read it. Anything from Taylor is worth reading. I think it's just the settings, man.
Yeah, I think our Bluetooth is probably.
It's not. I don't. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we still have that whistle.
Still. But now I can talk without that. So it's these two microphones.
I think that's what it is.
And it's the part under here that's causing it. Whatever this sensor is doing. It doesn't always go smooth. Are you putting this in front of me so I'm supposed to read it? I haven't read it yet.
I just wondered if we would want to read it, but that's all.
We would, but having not even looked it over, I don't know that I could do it justice, and Taylor Janatakis deserves the best that we can give him.
That's right.
Yeah, for Taylor, you got to be able to read this fluently. You can't hiccup on any of it.
That's why I gave it to you.
Well, I guess I will shift over to this book that I talked about last time. Jack Posobiec on Humans, and I've gotten maybe I don't know, almost halfway through it, but it is the secret history of communist revolutions and how to crush them. So they go through basically all the major ones that you might think about in terms of, communist China, USSR, but they also talk about what happened in France with the rebellion there, and Spain, and then even they tie it back to ancient Rome and how basically Caesar was able to stop the same sort of breakdown and take over and control that is going on. But it's really the importance of it is it ties us back to present day United States and what's happening with all of the craziness that we see out there, with people not understanding the differences between the sexes, having all of this just craziness. The Olympics, oh my God, I'm not watching the Olympics. Are you watching the Olympics? I didn't watch the opening ceremonies, but when I saw what the opening ceremonies looked like, and everything else, I mean, the boxer who basically got beat up by a guy, it's crazy. And what that tells me, think about it, the Olympics have always premiered the new and greatest, world, like takeover thing. Think about Hitler when that was at 39, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And,
I actually started in 34, but that was when he was just getting started.
Well, the point is they're using this world stage to try to push a narrative or an agenda and just confuse people, and that's how they take over.
There's another thing that folks aren't really thinking about. So, like, halftime shows are kind of on par with the Olympics, right?
Yeah.
And if you go back a few years, there was a halftime show back in, I don't know, I guess it was 16 or 17, in the Super Bowl, where there was this big devil-looking thing, and there was a bunch of kids in bed, and the nurses were being kind of perverse with the kids in bed. You remember that halftime show? 2012, is that what that was? And then you've got more recent halftime shows, because they're getting closer together now. And now we've got the Olympics. The opening night, they did that whole desecration of the Last Supper, and they had all these people dressed up as real freaks. But the thing that I'm trying to get to is all of these shows are paid for. That means everybody in them was getting paid. My observation is that when I go out and about town, I see people dressed up wearing pink hair with all kinds of crazy stuff on their faces. I don't see guys walking around in dresses, at least not in this town. Maybe there's something good about that, but I don't see it in Richmond either. And so I think, you get these concentrated audiences on the flat screen that I'm looking at here, and these guys are getting paid. I saw a video of a guy just today, everybody's getting all rattled. This guy's sitting in his car. He's dressed up like a woman that I've never seen before, with the multicolored hair, the strange makeup, a dress, and apparently a parachute. Anyways, so this guy's waving his hands and carrying on, and everybody's getting kind of hung up on how crazy he looks and what's falling out of his mouth. And I'm like, wait a second, look at his hands. This guy's got blisters on his hands. He works for a living. And the handle above the door is yanked out. This guy needs money. He's obviously getting paid to do this. That's why he's doing it. So how much of this stuff is paid for, and the concentration, the numbers in reality don't match what we're seeing on our flat screens. So it's a show. It's paid for. These people are getting paid. You know, it's just like a lot of these riots back in the day in the summer of love, so to speak. You know, they had it all arranged. They paid people to take piles of bricks to key locations in these cities. It's paid for. Follow the freaking money. All of it is paid for with our tax dollars, of course. Just say it. Next.
I agree.
Quiet night.
Yeah, so far.
I think we're going to get Tom to read Taylor's letter.
I think so.
Taylor does that stuff like it's just flowing through his veins. It's just there.
All right, so we got a note that they're going to start calling in at around 8 o'clock, so I think we got time to read this. So
7 minutes.
this was from Taylor Jonatakis, and thank you, Heather, for sending this on to us. This was on July 28th, and here it goes from Taylor Jonatakis. All, with only 100 days to go to the end of election season, remember November 5th now represents the end of election season, is no longer a one-day event. I wanted to share some of my thoughts about the events of the last few weeks. I was on my way to the Chow Hall when I heard that former President Trump had been shot at. Later in the Chow Hall, I learned he was actually shot and there was blood. When I returned to the housing unit, all the TVs were turned to the different news channels carrying live coverage and responses to it all. I was shocked as to how close we came to descending into what would undoubtedly be one of the darkest chapters in American history. I shudder to think of the first, second, and third order consequences of things in the coming weeks and months would have been. His demise would cause ripples around the world. He, as a symbol, has come to represent freedom and populist movements around the world as an organic resistance to centralized government and power. With the former President Trump operating within the bounds of the political boundaries of the Republic, espousing democratic principles, there is hope that there can be a peaceful return of power to the people. Vox Populi, Vox Dei, voice of the people, the voice of God. However, with his absence, that power will not transfer in such a controlled manner. Would not have. I do believe the hand of providence is on this country and that man. I believe the hand of providence is on the hearts of loving people around the world who wish the best for themselves, their families, and their neighbors. National sovereignty is an extension of personal sovereignty. It is volunteered to governments in measured amounts to do for us that which we cannot do for ourselves. However, when governments begin to attempt to do for us or demand from us something that we can and should do for ourselves, the balance of power is off. There is a natural resistance to the over-encroachment. Donald Trump is the embodiment of that resistance. When he stood after the attempt on his life and said, "Fight, fight, fight," He sent a shockwave through the world that the strength of the people will not so easily be dissuaded, that truly vox populi, vox Dei, will not be so easily silenced. For if God is on our side, who can be against us? In the weeks that followed, as if some self-fulfilling prophecy, vox populi, vox Dei, Joe Biden stepped away from his campaign. While the mainstream media, the same ones who covered up President Biden's failing capacity, then viciously turned on him, in doing so all they can to inflate the sails behind Vice President Kamala Harris. The people are not so gullible. For 9 years, that same media has thrown everything they could at the movement of the people and Mr. Trump's effort to return power to the people, and yet could not stop him, even with an assassin's bullet. The people can see that while Robert Kennedy Jr., a sincere presidential candidate, with all the proper registrations and primary participation, is unable to get onto more than 12 state ballots, somehow Vice President Kamala Harris, who has not had one single primary vote or met with one single registration deadline, is being thrust upon the people by an elite few, will not fool many. There is no doubt the very gates of hell will open. There is no doubt that this endeavor will require the people to fight, 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 as a matter of hyperbolic rhetoric, always, of course, within the prescribed bounds of the political process. But the hand of providence rests on all the people. There is always a peaceful way, and what you can do to make your voice, as part of the people's voice, heard. Do not lose hope. Trust the people. Vox populi, vox Dei. Who can be against us? Taylor Jonatakis.
I wish I could have heard his voice do that. It's the way he does it is just amazing. So the other day I thought I would try to use X as a search engine. And I typed in a phrase, and the phrase was, who would you vote for? Because I wanted to bring up all the posts that had the polls of who would you vote for. And no matter who posted it, left or right, there's a few exceptions, but the overwhelming majority, even left, voted for Trump. Anywhere between 87.7% to 99.2%. Now, it just strikes me that of all the social media websites, that Twitter/X, whatever that we want to call it today, that's got to have as many liberals as it does conservatives, right? You would think it's a representative mix anyways.
Used to be.
Yeah, I think Trump's going to win.
Well, I do certainly see a lot of people posting things where they've turned around, where they've voted traditionally one way or followed party lines or whatever, and they've just finally woken up and said, no, this doesn't make sense. So I see a lot of those kinds of things. And you got to watch, of course, on any platform like that. There's real people and there's not so real people, and there's propaganda and all that. So, but I don't know. It just seems to me like the general sense I get is people are fed up with the country right now.
All over the world.
Good point. And the world is counting on us. They are.
are.
I mean, you look at just what's happened in France and Germany and just to name a few, and their example of what they did, which was they flew open the gates and allowed everybody to come in and welcomed them in. And what do they get? They get the crime is out off the charts, and it's ruining their economies.
Right. But I've even seen posts from folks in other countries like Venezuela, Germany, and they'll actually come out and say, you over there in America, what are you Americans going to do about this mess? It's coming for you. What are you going to do about it? It's coming. It's already here. This Kamala Harris thing, not a single vote, not a single deadline for any states. I was looking at the Act Blue thing while John was on. $46.9 million in less than 20 minutes. I don't know about the 20 minutes, but within the first day, Act Blue declared that they had $46.9 million collected out of a total of 49 million collected. That means legitimate collections are probably somewhere in the difference between the 49 and the 46.9.
Wow.
So she probably legitimately only got $2.1 million donated. And that probably came from her grandmother. You know, there's discussion about short memories. When she first walked into the office of the vice president, she was losing staff like fleas. Nobody liked her. She uses the F-bomb regularly. She walks around cussing and yelling at people. But apparently the news media that reported it back then isn't reporting it now.
I know, they've done a complete turnaround.
Total turnaround. They love her. She's the greatest thing since ice cream.
What did Trump say? Not Martha Stewart. Who did he compare her to now? She was trash and then she's Martha Stewart or something like that?
Something like that, yeah. You know, because he's got something for every hour of the day to
Right,
give to her. But it's crazy.
That's what they're pushing now.
Now, I grew up out there in Northern California. I didn't like her then, and I was really young. I had no affection for that woman at all. Just because of the way she went about her business. You know, if you went to a public function and she happened to be one of the people that was there, her behavior was disgusting. She was sitting there giving the hands and the eyes to every powerful male individual in the building.
Right.
There'd be 500 people there. She's got 10 of them cornered.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, she's just not a very nice person. She certainly doesn't have the intellect to run this country the way the people expect it to be run. She's perfectly qualified to run it the way she expects to run it, but she's not qualified to do what we want. There's a big message in there. She's not qualified to do it the way we want, not because, huh?
It's not qualified at all.
She's not qualified for anything.
Right.
Well, she is qualified for one thing.
Yeah.
But I don't understand how so many people, at least there's the appearance that so many people can't see it.
No, I gotta say something. While you guys are all saying that everyone can see through all this, I met with two friends the other day, both Democrats, obviously. They were sitting there and they wanted to make a point about politics, but they weren't gonna go into politics, just wanted to make one statement. They watched Kamala Harris and man, she is smart, and in a debate, Trump wouldn't stand a chance against her because she's so intelligent, and they just can't get over how great she is. And I'm looking at them like, you're right, we can't discuss politics. If you're that easily swayed, oh my God, our country is in trouble.
Yeah.
Well, she's
And I'm
already...
scared because there's thousands more just like that.
Well, you know, I made that comment of fear to Cheryl just earlier today. I said, I'm kind of scared.
I am too. I'm terrified now. Like, oh my gosh.
If somehow he doesn't win because of the fraud, that's gonna happen.
That's not going to go well a second time.
I
That
think
is
it
not
will.
going to go well a second time. At all.
More people will be watching this time. It'll be harder to back the trucks in, for sure.
One would hope.
You know, but I don't know if there's anything to the cyber part of it. The machines themselves. Still, you know, I don't, you know, all that got shut down, but it was pretty convincing when you watched it. You know what I'm talking about, Dinesh
Yeah.
D'Souza's and the My Pillow dude that did all
Yeah,
the research.
Absolute Truth was the name of that,
I watched that, and I'm
multi-day
like,
symposium.
It was scary.
Yeah.
But he's talking China and stuff coming in with this. And I'm like,
Yes.
yes. Well, it's so much bigger than us, so why do we think we're gonna stop this, is what I'm saying. What can we really do?
We need to get smart. And, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things that we can do is get out and register more people to vote, get them to vote, get them to go to the polls, like our speaker 2 months ago said that. Yeah, bring 2 people.
Well, the Democrats can stay home, though.
You know, that's one thing, but we can also be poll watchers. We can go and do that, and not just in our own counties, but other counties that where they maybe need it, and during election season too, not just on election day. I don't know. I've got the same fear that a lot of people think that this is in the bag because of Trump's popularity, but they'll find a way. Look, this is a dying animal. This is a rat backed into a corner, which will fight. I mean, they do not want to lose power. They do not want to give up what they've got.
That's what I'm afraid of.
That is exactly what I'm afraid of.
And I think they're willing to have this country go to war to maintain it. That's what I
Yeah,
think they're pushing for.
and because of their particular position and perspective, they don't care if we lose as long as they
Correct.
keep power.
Correct.
Exactly.
And that's the point of the book of On Humans.
Yes.
That's the whole point of this book, is the people that are the revolutionaries who want to, fight back against the system. I just say read the book.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
Dominic Fox.
an inmate at the Washington, D.C. Central Detention Facility. To accept this call, press 0. To refuse this call, hit your current balance is $8.81. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Hey, good evening, Northern Neck Patriots.
Hey,
Good
Dominic.
evening.
Hey guys, it is Dominic Fox calling you guys live tonight from cell number 1 again here in the DC DOC. How are we doing tonight?
We're doing good. How are
Doing
you
good.
doing?
We're glad you're in your cell number 1 and you don't have any other uninvited guests.
no
Exactly.
uninvited
You're gonna
guests.
keep the
Did
J6s.
check them out last week. He's been released, so I think I'm getting some good energy, some good karma from that. But since I released him, I think hopefully he told his friends that the DC DOC, along with the Northern Neck Jail, is no place to be. So hopefully he and his friends are enjoying fun on the outside, like all the men and the women in here will be soon.
Yes.
On January 21st, 2025,
Let's
if
pray.
not before.
Yeah.
Yes,
Let's
we're waiting
pray.
for that.
Yep.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, and real quick, I wanted to say thank you to Cheryl. My mom received an unexpected but much appreciated package. I got your letter, so I knew it was coming, and so thank you for sending that. I know she got a couple of great copies of the Northern Neck Sentinel. She said there was something in there for me, and she really appreciated it. Kind of like I talked about before, it's, even though I was never in that horrendous facility, that I know you guys have been instrumental, hopefully, I know you've been instrumental in bringing awareness to and some changes, both at the administrative level and I'm sure in the day-to-day operations there. But it just means so much to our families to know that people like you, the Northern Neck Patriots, and our supporters around the world care about us. I remember when I first got into this predicament, and I told her that I was getting letters from people from Virginia and from Ohio and Minnesota, and she told me, are these people you met in college, or how do you know these people? I don't know them. I don't know them, but they know of us. They know of our plight, and ultimately they know that they're in this fight with us, and it really it means a lot. So thank you again, Cheryl specifically, and all of you there at Northern Neck, John, Tom, everybody, for not just putting out an incredibly informative product in the Northern Neck Sentinel, which I encourage everybody listening to check out online. I know my mom said she'd asked me, how can I get a copy? She was lucky enough to get some physical copies, but I know they produce it digitally, and honestly, a lot of the guys flock to the Epic Times when we get that in, but as soon as the Northern Neck Sentinel drops, I'm sure, I'm always, lucky enough to get an extra copy or two, so we share it. We love reading it. And, you know, again, just thank you for continuing to bring awareness to the fight that's not over yet, but one that we're all involved in together.
Absolutely.
Well, that's great. I'm glad she got it and she enjoyed reading it.
Absolutely. So she's actually making, I don't think I told her that I was going to be on tonight, but she usually, on Friday night, she knows to tune into Northern Neck Patriots on YouTube, so she's probably listening right now. She's actually making her first trip out here next Friday. Also be here Thursday. I know she's going to do the Freedom Quarter Vigil and come see me on Friday. And I'm ecstatic for that. You know, it's one of the things that, you know, Jonathan Copeland was sharing about last night. You know, we eventually get used to, you know, being in this environment, as uncomfortable as it is. But something that our families have to live with every day is knowing that their loved ones are behind bars. They're hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from home. And without the platforms like the one that you guys give us on Friday nights to be able to hear our voice and know that we're okay, you know, it's tough to know. You know, they think, you know, we're in jail, or in some cases, and in a lot of cases, you know, our husbands, our brothers, our sons, our sisters, our wives, moms are in prison. But you guys know, because you're a part of it, we do have a really strong community. But it really, it means the world to, you know, one of the great organizations is helping my mom get out here, and I want to say thank you to Stand in the Gap Foundation for making that happen. Thank you to the Northern Neck Patriots for, again, you know, giving me a platform to speak out and let her know that I'm okay and that I'm around a lot of great people, and I have a lot of great people praying for me. But other than that, guys, I'm sure you were, so I love you, Mom, and I look forward to seeing you. But I'm sure you guys saw well, actually two things. I guess it's official now that Kamala, less than 1%, Harris, has secured enough votes prior to the convention to be named the Democratic nominee. Is that correct? Is that what you guys are hearing?
That's right.
That's
Yep.
incredible.
That's what they're claiming.
I mean, what a, you know, I was speaking to somebody today on a visit, and I thought, you know, I don't want to say there are a lot of quality or choice candidates that Democrats could have nominated, but the way that they've just gotten all in for Kamala doesn't just feel like inauthentic. It's almost creepy. And I know they like to use the term weird for President Trump and J.D. Vance now, but this campaign, the way that they've just shifted overnight, and it's so typical for the DNC or the globalist playbook. You know, we seamlessly transferred from COVID to the war in Ukraine, and now from Joe Biden to Kamala Harris, and it's just, you know, I think they are captivating on the fact that, you know, the average attention span is like that of a goldfish.
Right.
But I watched the rally, quote unquote. It was really a Megan Thee Stallion concert that Kamala Harris was speaking at the other day in Atlanta, where they said, oh, she's got 10,000 people. I don't know if you guys looked at the crowd, but that was just, it did not look anything like a Trump rally where people are actually enthusiastic and excited and waving their signs and jumping up and down. People were, you know, they were distracted. It was like they were posing for the camera. They kept checking their phones. They were calling people. They were texting, which is something you can't do at a Trump rally because there's 10, 20, 30, 50, 70, 80,000 people, so service is down. But it's just weird, the way they're forcing everything on social media and trying to make this woman who's never been tested nationally, who's never received a single vote in a national election, act like she's just, you know, this new queen of the Democratic Party is just bizarre. And I think, you know, it's weird. It's, you know, we're limited in the amount of news that we can get, so I have to kind of sift through some of the globalist propaganda to really get a feel for things. But, you know, I get to talk to people like you and some of my friends on the outside, and just hearing the way they're forcing this campaign. Now, I'm not going to say I feel bad for Democrats, because I'm not, you know, one of these, you know, absolutists that said there's no good people on the other side. I have some, you know, not a lot, but I do know some people that choose to vote Democrat that aren't, you know, that aren't scum of the earth. And I honestly feel bad for them, because, you know, not that I have any viable suggestions for who they should have nominated, but the fact that there wasn't even a legitimate conversation or consideration, and everybody just fell in line, and we're dealing with this vote blue no matter who specter again. It's really fascinating to watch, and I'm just curious, you know, what do you guys think about that?
Well, I tell you what, it feels like a coronation. We've seen that, you know. I mean, it's just, there's no merit whatsoever. It's just, this is our person, this is who we're getting behind, now let's go sell it to the American people.
It's yet another
The
coup.
part that I find most disturbing is that while all of us on November 3rd, 2020, most of us saw it coming, and when it happened, we were still pissed. But I'm not seeing anybody on their side complaining about their due process of elections has
Not
been
at all.
completely stolen from every Democrat in
They
this
don't
country.
care.
And they're not saying a word about it.
As long as they win, that's
And
all
another
they care.
thing on that note, there wasn't even there were contenders. There were, they act that Kamala's unchallenged and nobody's decided to run against her. Well, how about when Joe Biden ran in 2020 and even prior to and even in this nomination, I'm sorry, not in 2020, but in this nomination, there was Marianne Williams, there was Dean Phillips, there was RFK for a time, and they wanted a debate. The Democrats refused to even have a conversation about being challenged because Biden was the incumbent, and now it's, we're 100 days out, I'm going to step back, and here, this is your choice, you have to take it. Again, I'm not going to say I feel bad for the Democrats because you reap what you sow, but you make a great point. I mean, nobody other than this bizarre virtual roll call situation, nobody voted for Kamala to be in this position. And I'm going to be honest, I think it would have been interesting to see, if and there's a significant amount of things I disagree with RFK about, but that's somebody who has some ideas that were at least worth hearing on that side of the aisle. Marianne Williams, maybe not so much, but they had the opportunity to have that conversation, to have that debate, have that political discourse that's now just been completely shut out. And it's really, if I was a Democrat, I would be irate because, as you guys know, she's raised $200-300 million in 2 weeks. Well, I remember, I have a memory span longer than 3 seconds. I remember several months ago, a year or 2 years ago, when, Kamala, not just Joe Biden was, plummeting in the polls, but nobody had any love for Kamala. So the fact that they just said, like you said, a coronation and raised her up into this, it's so fabricated. It's so AstroTurf. They're paying kids on TikTok to act like she's this cool, hip lady, and it's so weird. And I don't know. It's going to be, I was asked today at the visit that I had, what's the pulse in the pod right now? Does everybody are they still behind President Trump? Do you still believe, that it's a win? And I said, absolutely, without question. But the one thing that I'm thankful for, and, I don't want to speak this into existence, I think one of the ways that we all know that 2020 got a little less than clean, I'll say, was with the mail-in ballot situation. In my first county jail, I was in there with a Chinese national from Los Angeles named Kunling Kevin Zhu, who told me that in Los Angeles, he received 7 ballots. This man is not an American citizen. Now, that was at the height of COVID when, all these states were breaking their own election laws and backdating ballots and sending ballots to everybody. Thankfully, and I know some states have changed their process to where mail-in voting is more accessible, but we don't have that massive, and they're kind of pumping it a little bit. I can see in the news that COVID's back and bird flu and all this. But hopefully, we're going to have a cleaner and more traditional election. And I still encourage everybody, get out on election day, vote in person. I've registered, I don't know if I've shared this with you guys yet, but they come into the jail and they do some serious ballot harvesting and voter registration drives. I know DC is one of the few places where even if you're a felon, you can vote. So I made sure I am now I'm a resident of DC. I have registered as a Republican, and I intend on voting in November or whenever they actually bring us the ballot. But I did also want to comment on the fact that, and I'm sure you guys saw Trump's comments at the National Association of Black Journalists, or whatever that organization was called in Chicago, where he, reaffirmed. I was a little disappointed that we didn't get more airtime at the RNC, but I understand it. We did see one guy with a big white shirt that said "Free the J6 prisoners," but I was ecstatic to see that he made the comment that pardons are still coming, and that he made mention of the fact that even those individuals who have been charged, convicted, pled, or alleged to have committed violent acts will still be eligible for pardons, because I've met, as you guys know, I've got a lot of love for my man Chris Quaglin. David Dempsey, some of the best, Curtis Logan Tate, some of the best people, Reed Christensen, man, Matt DeSilva, some of these incredible human beings that I've met who have just been Joseph and Francis Azari, so many people that have been, alleged to have committed these violent acts, that they're still going to be considered for pardons. And the thing is, whether and I'm still waiting on a verdict for myself. I'm one of those people that has the 1512 charge kind of hanging over my head. I had my trial on June 17th. We're now, whatever that is, 6 weeks out, still no verdict. But whether they drop that charge, and the top of my guidelines, if they drop that charge, praise God, are only 16 months. If they decide not to, I'm looking at about 27 to 36 months. But either way, unless the judge decides to go crazy, which she still can do, within a year and a half at most, barring any, potential, and I'm going to say likely, pardon, in a year and a half, 2 years max, my experience with this is done. But there are some men in here who, in an attempt to simply protect other people or to,
You have 1 minute remaining.
that warranted, or not warranted, but brought about some violent charges. So I just wanted to say, I'm so glad that, because there's been a lot of concern about whether those charges, violent crimes, will be eligible for pardons, and I'm glad to know that they are being considered. Guys are already at that 1 minute cutoff, so I just want to thank you again for what you're doing. My name is Dominic Xavier Box. DC DOC number 387287. If you're interested in putting anything on my commissary account, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow my work on Rumble. It's Chatham, CHATHM, Free Press, Instagram at NotDomBox, and GiveSendGo.com/FreedomJ6. I love you guys, and Mom, I can't wait to see you next week. God bless you guys.
God bless you too.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you for using Global Tellink.
That's really cool that his mom's coming to see him. He didn't say whether it's the first time or not, but that's pretty exciting. He actually is registered to vote in DC now. That's a good. I'm curious to see if anybody else is doing that.
I'm sure they are.
It might be.
J6ers, they're all
Yeah,
getting
they're
registered.
gonna get their part. That's great.
I do know a few people that said that they are registered in DC. I do know a few people that said that they were registered in DC, and they're not even in DC now. They're in other states in the BOP, but they can still vote as if they're in DC.
Oh, okay, so they don't have to re-register again?
No.
That's good.
I guess that makes BOP its own entity without the state. Yeah.
So how do they feel it's gonna be different now with the mail-in voting? He was talking about how the one fellow got like 7 ballots, remember?
Yeah.
How is it gonna be different this time, that they're not gonna do the same thing again? Are they still gonna allow mail-in ballots?
They do. Yeah, they're allowing mail-in ballots.
Well, there it goes.
Again, but the whole thing behind it, if you think about it, it's what that mail-in ballots did was it allowed them to put these things out there, and then
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
James Grant.
an inmate at the Washington, D.C. Central Detention Facility. To accept this call, press 0. Your current balance is $7.11. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Hey, James, how you
Hey,
doing?
Tom. Hey, I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Hi, we're
Nice
doing
being with you.
Good.
Tom's here too. He's gonna say hi.
Hey,
What's going on, y'all? It's good to talk to everyone.
yeah, good to hear you.
How are things over by you?
It's
Hot.
hot week, but okay, it's summertime. It's August. It's the dog days of August, man. So
Yeah, definitely. The most I know is I feel the window and it seems hot. That's all I do for winter. Yeah, they didn't let us go outside all winter.
Ah.
The only way I passed winter was that the window felt cold, and you know, they don't really let us go out when it's hot either. So the sun felt warm, and you know, I hope there's not so many long-term effects of not getting sun for this long, for an extended period of time.
Need
But,
vitamin D.
Yeah,
you
that's,
know,
Need vitamin
after
D.
almost 31 months, I hope I can recover from this fully. I don't know. It's just such a crazy situation, Tom. And David Dempsey's going to get sentenced. What's his sentence? Wow. So he gets sentenced this week.
Yeah, August 9th.
He's facing up to like 15 years for in a city where about 12 years a murder gets you roughly 12 years. Is what Dominic Bach says. No cooperation, just a standard murder in D.C. will get you roughly 12 years and you're out. But David Dempsey's facing 15 for some assault.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous.
And it's just crazy. And I think, you know, they showed their hand a little bit, which is they had a chance to be hard on someone else outside of January 6th, and it was actually the same prosecutor. I don't know, I'm sure someone has brought up the Camacho guy, the guy who punched a female cop in the face at the DNC.
right.
And yeah, he got 48 hours community service, and to my knowledge, it was a diversion program. So he does the 48 hours, you know, it's contingent upon him doing the 48 hours, and then they drop the charges, and he's not even a felon. Meanwhile, you know, not to shirk responsibility, but I pushed the fence, and I've been in here and celebrated 3 birthdays now, and I was acquitted of any injury or, you know, any bodily injury or anything. So I'm charged with pushing a fence. So I'm just praying, Tom, that 3 years almost is I'll be at 32 months by the time I go to sentencing. I'm just praying that 32 months is sufficient. You know, I think you also agreed that my judge seems like she has a heart, and I'm going to talk about my allocution, you know, what I went through with Northern Neck, because a lot of guys, you know, we're here in D.C., and, you know, for all its faults, it's not Northern Neck, and it's really not Lewisburg. I was also in Lewisburg, and it was like 120 or 110 degree heat, like all summer, and I sweltered in there, and it was terrible. So that was 22 months of my time was spent in general population and some of the worst places you could be at. And you know, I'm going to talk about that in my allocution, but I really feel like, you know, I don't know, it's tough, and I think they really showed their hands. And the interesting thing about that his guy's name was Camacho or Comanche. He punched a female cop in the face and slammed her against the wall, which is worse conduct than most of the men in here that I'm with, and got 48 hours community service in the same city, and it was a Capitol Police officer. So I don't know how you could, you know, say you're going to incarcerate David Dempsey, a father, take him away from his children for 15 years, and then give someone else 48 hours. I mean, Trump said it when he spoke at the Association of Black Journalists, but you know, and this is not to shirk responsibility for myself, but you can't have 2 standards of justice. You know, and I think they tried to say, well, January 6th is different. I mean, it was a political act. You know, this was at the DNC that Camacho punched that female cop in the face, a Capitol Police officer, which many of the people in here are charged just the same. I mean, that's who starts the Capitol. And it was a Capitol Police officer, and he did much worse than most people in here and gets 48 hours. So, I mean, that's a 1-to-1 comparison. That's as close as you're going to get. It was at the DNC headquarters. You know, he attacked the female cop, so it's worse than, you know, I think worse than anyone who didn't, you know, attack a
Sounds
female
like the
cop.
Olympics.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maurice said it sounds like the
Olympics.
Yeah, no, it's absurd. It's a 1-to-1 comparison, and you know, they showed their hand. You know, it's the same prosecutor that's going after us, as Trump said. You know, he said it was a vengeance. And yeah, so it was really nice to hear Trump say that he was going to, you know, pardon us. He said if they're innocent, but I mean, I think, you know, if you've got a reasonable, I mean, I'd like to think I'd be pardoned in that situation. You know, both of the officers in my case were asked, was the weapon used, and they both said no. There was no injury, and so I got to think that I'd be in a good situation for that. But no, it's really good to hear that affirmation from Trump. But I mean, as frustrating as it is right now, Tom, to hear from, you know, stories like that where this guy gets 48 hours community service, it's a great comparison, and I think it does help with the pardon argument. So I don't know. What were your thoughts on what Trump said at the in Chicago?
I didn't actually see that. Did you guys?
No, we caught snippets of it afterwards, and because the whole thing was obviously 30 some odd minutes for Trump's part, but the entire event was over 2 hours.
I loved it. He put them in their place. It was so funny.
He nailed it.
Funny.
I need to go back and look at it because I thought it
Yeah.
was a little bit uneven-handed, against him. They were.
Yeah, they didn't. It was deliberate that they were 35 minutes late. It was
Right.
deliberate that the very first question wasn't even a "Hello, Mr. President,
Right.
how have you been?"
They
It
snuck
was
on purpose.
Jumped right into the
"You've
script.
been a jerk. This is why." And even though it's a lie, what do you have to say about it, asshole? Excuse me, folks.
Right.
But that's what they did.
Right. Well, you gotta love Trump. He immediately calls her out. He says, "That was very nasty. No, how are you?" Just jump right into it. And from the snippets I saw, I mean, maybe the crowd was hostile, but when he said Kamala Harris said that she happened to turn black, I saw laughter.
That was
The snippets
funny.
they used, they were laughing. And of course, they reported that the crowd was hostile, but I think he had them laughing at a bunch of times.
Yeah,
That was
the,
the worst- the
the
worst.
crowd really wasn't very hostile compared to the interviewers.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. I was laughing.
Well, that's cool. James, I started out the show tonight with just kind of an update. There was 8 people arrested last week, and these people, first one on the list was a 76-year-old woman from Solomon's Island, Maryland, which is
Wow.
only 30 minutes, 30 miles from where you are sitting right now. And all she did was walk around the building. They interviewed her in January 25th of 2021. So they confronted her then, and they waited all this time to arrest her. And these are the basic 4 misdemeanors that everybody's getting. But it just shows a pattern here, which is just cruel. And I mean, you guys have had these people at least have had their freedom somewhat, but this tremendous weight of a piano hanging over their heads that's going to drop any minute, and so now they decided to drop it on them, and it's just like they're doing this just to create a narrative that they're
terrorize the
still
public.
rounding up J6ers,
Right. No, that's exactly it. Yeah, that they're still doing it. They don't care if they've already interviewed someone and told them they were fine. It is. I was out on bond for a couple of months. It is like a piano over your head. And I look back now and I know it was absolutely being followed everywhere I went. And yeah, it was awful. And I'm glad I lost bond early and was able to get this time done. So in a way, it turned out to be a blessing for all I've gone through. But it's just that what Trump said gave me a glimmer of hope that I could get my life back. But of course, I have to go through. I was slandered by the media, and there was a Newsweek article, and I don't even know how they got this information. I don't know who leaked it, but they were talking, and I don't even see what it has to do with anything. But they leaked my brother, medical information about him, mental illness struggles he's had, and
Oh, my.
yeah, I mean, I don't even see how that's relevant. But it was just a despicable article, and I've contacted them through my lawyer, and they actually removed a great portion of it. But I mean, just I don't see it for a lot of us. I don't even see how we begin to rebuild after this. We're gonna all try, but of course the first thing is just get out of
Right.
jail.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you after 30 months, I can't imagine what it's like to just go where you want. Just I have to think about your door being locked, or I can go take a shower whenever I want, and that's gonna be really boring.
And wonderful,
but
and wonderful.
yeah, it's crazy. And yeah, haven't been, Northern Neck was even worse. Northern Neck, you only got 2 outdoor wrecks a week. So a lot of Northern Neck was open dorm, but it was the worst open dorm. That you're just crammed on top of each other like a concentration camp. Are you guys outside of the jail right now?
No, we haven't been over there for a while, but we're thinking about getting back over there, depending upon what's going on. But yeah, we're inside. We're
We have air conditioning.
air conditioning, and if it
Yeah, we're
rains and all
comfy.
that,
We're comfy.
Right, maybe in the fall when it's nicer.
Yeah,
But,
there you go.
Well,
I was gonna say that.
the second they get anybody in there that we know about that they're keeping there again and starting that thing up again with J6ers, we're going to be over there.
Right, and I'm so grateful you guys put a stop to that. And that was, that was the first jail I'd gone to, so I was like, I guess this is jail, and I saw everyone else that came through, like, this place is messed up, man, they can't do that, we're supposed to give you this. I mean, I wore the same pair of underwear for like a week when I first got there. They don't give you anything. I had to rely on Daniel Rodriguez, gave me a t-shirt, I didn't wash that for a week. I couldn't get the comments, my mom couldn't figure out commissary, I had no elderly parents, and so she didn't realize the inflated prices in Northern Neck, so she put like $30 on my book, and I ate that like the first day. I was extremely malnourished. They started me off, so a lot of people start off in J-Pod, which is like purgatory in the jail, and I started off in A-Pod, the first level of hell, which is a really bad setup for someone who's brand new to jail. And I still to this day don't know why. I think it was just discrimination on the part of the jail. I think someone just didn't like me for whatever reason. But yeah, I mean, there was people that did 19 years that were sent directly to J-Pod, to the intake, purgatory, and I had to go to the first level of hell. And yeah, I'm still just this level of suffering that we went through at Northern Neck. And I think I was the January 6er who was there for the longest amount of time. But the suffering that I went through there, I'll never forget it. It's just dwarfed. I mean, Lewisburg was bad as I sat there in 110-degree heat, but I mean, there was edible food, so I can't really complain too much. And I got to go outside for rec, and I got to smell fresh air. So, there's a lot of things I didn't like about Lewisburg. I mean, in a prison like that, there's an intensity, and you feel it in the guards. And even when our unit was down to 5 people, and there wasn't a whole lot of people in the unit, for our 5 people, and they knew it was safe on the unit, there's just an intensity that I think kind of pervades the whole prison. And it's a really creepy feeling, and people have died there, and terrible things have happened there, and that energy remains. So while I didn't like Lewisburg, nothing was like Northern Neck, and I mean, just A-Pod, there was constant A-Pod, and it was just existing in A-Pod, it was horrible. And when they tell you, hey, pack it up, you're going back to intake, you made it out of the first level of hell, back to purgatory, I mean, you got your stuff ready so fast. You were like, oh, yeah, I'm ready, I got everything. It's like, oh, don't you need your mat? Or like, all your stuff, I don't know, I'm good, I'll get it later. It's like, you just want to get out of there. And, I mean, I think I told you once, it's like, there's situations where guys don't want to leave their comrades behind, and they say, like, oh, I can't leave behind. In Northern Neck, it was that bad that you're like, sorry, dude, I got to get out of here. I put my time in here, and you're going to, because you have to stay when you go to the first level of hell, you have to stay for at least 30 days. And I don't know many people that would stay in A-Pod for someone else.
Yeah.
They call it the incentive-based program, which is, stay out of the hellish part of the jail, and, behave well, and you get to stay out of the hellish part of the jail. And it works, but it is torturous. And just, oh my God, there's just something about the energy on the bad side of the jail, which is, populated by mostly the worst of the DC inmates who are apparently sent there when they...
You have 1 minute remaining.
1 minute, but they send them there when they mess up here, so it's just populated with some of the worst people. So what I was going to say, and my whole point on that tangent was that, there are people suffering in Warsaw. There is hunger, there is so much hunger there, and just, there is hunger, there is just, it is an awful place, and it has dwarfed any other experience I've had. I went to Lewisburg or USP, and I've been here in the DC, they call it the DC Gulag, and Northern Neck, it was a 10, and the other places aren't even close. I mean, it's just, it was a nightmare, Tom. But thank you guys for getting us out of there. Thank you for continuing this vigil and our support. Hopefully this is almost over. But thank you, Tom. If there's anything you wanted to say, if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, at STONKSAND Law, Stonk and Law. If you want to see a little bit of what I was about before I was locked up, I got some pictures on there. Instagram at Stonk and Law. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, guys.
James.
Thank you for using Global Tellink.
And he didn't get it in, but his Give, Send, Go is Free James. Just go into Give, Send, Go and type in Free James, and his booking number is 386739.
Can you go ahead and repeat what he said the Instagram was? I couldn't really hear it.
I think he said Sunk and Law. I'm not.
I thought it was Donk and Law.
All right,
We're gonna have to look that up.
Yeah.
I wrote down. It's
All right.
Sunk in Law. Did you hear what he said?
I'm sorry.
We'll find
We'll
it.
figure it out.
Or somebody can put it in the
Rewind the tape.
in the chat, yeah, if you want. But I think that's a good plan for him to talk about Northern Neck Regional Jail, because I've heard others in their allocutions doing the same thing. And it speaks to cruel and unusual punishment, frankly. Now, the judges aren't swayed by it, but it's on the record at least. And I think that's what's important, so,
It is.
for appeal. I meant to tell him about this document that we were reading, the retaliation document for the Capitol Police. What's the guidelines again on the letters? How many pages can you send, and does it have to be single page or double? Can it be double-sided? Do you do all that writing?
To send out to BOP,
Not to BOP, to DC.
5 pages maximum. 5-page maximum on white paper, single-sided. You write the inmate's number on top and the name, and do not put any stickers, do not put anything that's like that on the inside on the letter. But I think the envelope, you can put a sticker if you wanted to put a sticker of your home address, but you do have to put your home address inside the letter or P.O. box.
So thanks, Harold. So this is 15 pages, so I can break this up into 3 letters and send to him. I want to get this inside the jail. I want people to read this. This is so factual based. I mean, again, I'm going to put it back up on the screen here again. Well, Maurice put it up there, but this is the letter that was sent to Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and the whole committee. And this is coming from the whistleblowers from the Capitol Police. And Maurice put it up there in the chat already, but you can see my rough writing at the bottom. It's basically titled Retaliation Document that was sent to Congress. This was on July 31st. And again, you could go to X, Tariq Johnson. He's definitely promoting it. And you can look it up if you just check the chat. One of the things that I guess I would just continue on until the next caller comes in. The facts that are in this document, there's a timeline, as I mentioned, and there's the complaint, and then there are facts. Facts start out with the January 6th U.S. Capitol Police whistleblowers filed many complaints with the U.S. Capitol Police OIG, the Senate Rules Committee, the Committee on House Administrations, and the January 6th Committee, referencing the intelligence failure of the Capitol Police intelligence leadership. The OIG never, underlined in bold, never interviewed any of these analysts for his flash report on intelligence for January 6th. This is in spite of numerous emails with many analysts, to include a highly respected analyst, stating that he needed to be interviewed as he had specific details related to intelligence failures by the U.S. Capitol Police intelligence commanders. It seems the OIG, Office of Inspector General, would want this information for their investigation. The OIG ignored every single analyst. The OIG, by his own admission, subsequently revealed the whistleblowers' identities and complaints to U.S. Capitol Police leadership. Is that how a whistleblower is supposed to work? The OIG revealing the names of the whistleblowers to Capitol leadership directly led to the retaliation against them. Every single analyst that filed these whistleblower complaints faced retaliation for filing these complaints and providing evidence. All were separated from the department. The whistleblowers filed scores of complaints of retaliation with a variety of Capitol Police officials and entities, to include the OPR, the OIG, and up to and including the Chief of Police. And the U.S. Capitol, USCPB, imploring for protection and assistance. Their responses range from gross malfeasance to silence. It appears the Chief, OIG, and OGC, before any investigation, never had any intention to protect the whistleblowers from retaliation. If they had, they would have immediately separated the supervisor pending the outcome of the investigation and counseled the supervisor not to take any personal personnel actions against these employees. This is the U.S. Capitol Police practice. In this case, the supervisor was not only left in place, but the retaliation increased in severity. This only happens with the approval of the chief and with the outcome of the whistleblower's complaint predetermined. There is clearly documented evidence held by the Capitol Police that Capitol Police leadership and OGC violated the performance evaluation and communication systems, acronym is PECS, to retaliate against the U.S. Capitol Police whistleblowers in clear violation of the policy. The OIG failed to acknowledge most of the retaliation complaints, interview the complainants, investigate their allegations, or even follow up with the whistleblowers. The OIG failed at a rudimentary level to even interview all respondents. For example, Assistant Chief Sean Gallagher, who Chief Manger admits was a respondent, was never interviewed by the OIG for the analyst's complaints. The OIG completes an investigative report that references retaliation, but deceives readers, including Congress, by only investigating the U.S. Capitol Police leadership and OGC for sexual harassment and discrimination, which was not the complaint. Obviously, the OIG, the chief, and the OGC knew if they actually investigated for retaliation, it would have been damning for executive leadership. The OIG interviewed whistleblowers for a negligible amount of time, in one case approximately 5 minutes. The OIG's report reveals the lack of questions to the analysts, reference the retaliation against them by leadership. The OIG report revealed that OIG never interviewed numerous high-ranking witnesses to retaliatory offenses, to include members of the U.S. Capitol Police Office of Human Resources and section and division commanders of these employees. The OIG justifies this investigative failure by showing the whistleblowers did not prove their prima facie case of sexual harassment and discrimination, not their allegation. This appears to be their rationale for not fully investigating the allegations of the whistleblowers. You hear where this is going? They're turning it into sexual harassment. It has nothing to do with that.
Right.
This appears to be the rationale for not fully investigating the allegations of the whistleblowers. Note, this appears was simply a tactic employed by the OIG to not interview any actual witnesses to the offenses. The OIG report inexplicably and clearly shows that they failed to investigate U.S. Capitol Police leadership and the OGC for the actual allegations filed, which was a violation of the USCP's retaliation policy. I'm actually reading this for the first time, and I was going to stop, but every one of them just seems to be like piling on, so we'll just continue. The U.S. Capitol Police has a very specific policy that protects whistleblowers. It's dubious this policy was never identified in the investigation or by Chief Manger in his testimony. It is clear, unequivocal, and appropriately titled retaliation in bold. So it is easy for anyone, chief, OIG, attorney, or any employee to find. This omission is truly unacceptable. The OIG states in its letter to the CHA that it does not have the authority to investigate U.S. Capitol Police leadership for utilizing the PECS system, which I explained that earlier, to retaliate against whistleblower employees. If the OIG's position is correct, Capitol Police leadership can retaliate against anyone with the PECS system without any oversight. It's clear that the OIG, the chief, and the OGC knew this evidence was damning to the preconceived outcome and thus simply lied to hide evidence. The OIG in his letter to CHA falsely contends that the whistleblowers had an affirmative requirement to specifically request anonymity and protection from the OIG. Therefore, he did not have an obligation to protect them. Protection of whistleblowers is an affirmative requirement of the OIG. Wow. The scores of continued whistleblower retaliation complaints made by the analysts after June 14, 2021 were mostly ignored. The one interview documented was never reduced to a report and not provided to Congress. When the whistleblowers appealed to Chief Manager for the unlawful retaliation, he shockingly dismissed their allegations because they didn't provide him with proof in their appeal that they were in fact whistleblowers. Chief Manager writes, "You provide no facts indicating that you engaged in whistleblower activity or that you fall within any statutory whistleblower protection." Oddly, Chief Manager does not even bother to investigate the whistleblower assertions at all. This is another indication that the analyst is actually a whistleblower and Chief Manager wants plausible deniability. Chief Manager clearly and inexcusably fails to personally follow investigative leads, investigate new allegations of whistleblower retaliation, and maliciously fails to confirm their status or protect actual whistleblowers. Chief Manager had an affirmative requirement to protect whistleblowers and their allegations and their new allegations until it is proven otherwise. In this regard, he failed. On July 26, 2023, Chief Manager perjured himself and perpetuated an ongoing lie to the U.S. Congress when he stated, in quotes, "There are regulations that prevent the discrimination and harassment of employees that I think can be expanded to protect whistleblowers." Chief Manager perpetuates the lie started by the OIG and all those that were involved and approved the initial investigation. The lie of omission here is the failure to acknowledge the policy on record, specifically approved by the Chief of Police, that broadly protects whistleblowers. Once again, there is, in fact, and always has been, a very specific Capitol Police policy that protects whistleblowers. It is appropriately titled, again in bold caps, retaliation, signed off on by the Chief of Police. Again, rules of conduct, Rule C11, retaliation. Employees will not harass, ridicule, or retaliate in any form against a complainant, employee, or any witness for complaining or otherwise offering evidence in an internal or external criminal or administrative investigation. So the policy is clearly there, and they're acting like it's not, and they're acting like that you have to prove that you have a complaint in order to be labeled. Yeah, almost done here.
Yeah, but they don't have a process for that either.
I'm only on page 12. I mean, gosh. Still, Chief Manager contends to the U.S. Congress the analysts weren't whistleblowers, in part because they never provided him proof. Also echoing the same failed argument of the OIG in his January 12th letter to the committee, but Chief Manager knows the OIG was encouraged to retire early because he unlawfully disclosed the identities of the whistleblowers to him, Chief Manager, the executive team, and the OGC. Yet now Chief Manager states that they were not whistleblowers, exonerating himself of any legal or ethical responsibility to protect them. Chief Manager can't state true whistleblowers should be protected and at the same time refuse to take any investigatory action to determine if a person meets whatever definition of a whistleblower he wants to apply. I think this is big. I mean, this is a lot. It's fact-based, it's timeline-based, it's just clearly this has been going on behind the scenes for some time, and it gives me great hope to know that those Capitol Police officers and resources have tried to push this up and push it out into the light. And it's gonna get there. It's gonna get there soon. I'm surprised we haven't seen more of it, but this was just from the release on July 31st.
Why is it taking so long? 4 years later? I mean.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think they've been covering it up and pushing it back down, and things move at a snail's pace.
It's maddening. These people need to go to jail.
The real violations of retaliation were never investigated and dismissed by the OIG, just like his legal requirement to protect whistleblowers. The chief and the intelligence leadership were never investigated for the rule they undoubtedly violated, Rule C11, retaliation. The reason for all this is simple. The chief the OGC, the OIG, and the intelligence leaders violated and continue to violate the retaliation policy. The chief could never inform Congress that the retaliation policy even exists. Clearly, this is lying by omission. Lying that there is a policy of failure is much easier to explain than why he and his entire executive team authorized an obviously false and inaccurate report to be submitted to the U.S. Congress. Congress doesn't like people lying to them. I know that much. Do they do anything about it?
No.
Well, depends what side.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. This is a lot. And then the whole background of just the Capitol Police, well, I would like to send you to the right location for this one. But it's a really special entity. I think Ivan Raiklin probably is the best one to spell it out, but he has done an analysis of the actual geographic locations where they have authority. And it's the Capitol buildings and grounds, of course. It's part of the mall, I believe. But they have a very unique relationship in terms of oversight, because their oversight is simply Congress. And the if Nancy Pelosi is controlling what's going on with the Capitol Police, and she's the checks and balances, well, then that kind of sums it up for you right there.
It does. It absolutely does. Somebody needs to call us and sing an anthem.
They do. It's 3 minutes.
3 minutes. Come on, guys. Don't forget about us.
They won't forget it.
Even if it's a little bit late.
So what he said, they like to get the Epoch Times there? Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I love the Epic Times.
I do too.
There you go.
Hello, this is a prepaid call from
Dominic Fox.
an inmate at the Washington, D.C. Central Detention Facility. To accept this call, press 0. Your current balance is $5.41. This call is from a correction facility and is subject to monitoring and recording. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
Hey, Patriots, it is Dominic. Hey, everybody, it's Dominic Fox calling back again. Sorry to double dip tonight, but they asked me to take you guys through the anthem tonight.
That sounds great. Sounds great.
Awesome. Well, we've got 2 quick minutes, so I did want to put in a special request that I didn't get to mention earlier. I am absolutely not asking for any money, but if anybody out there would be willing to go to my GiveSendGo, that's GiveSendGo.com/FreeDomJ6. The most recent update is a letter called From the Patriot Pod to President Trump. It's a letter that I wrote to President Trump describing what happened on that terrible day, July 13th, when we witnessed the assassination attempt on his life. And there's a special request in there for him. I sent a letter to Mar-a-Lago, but I know the Patriot community out there, somebody has some way that they can get it to him. If it's a letter you guys would like to run in the Sentinel, I think it would be good. It tells a little bit about my story, but it's also described one of the most unifying, motivating, and rallying moments in Patriot Pod history. So once again, guys, that's GiveSendGo.com/FreeDomJ6, my most recent update, and it's called From the Patriot Pod to President Trump. And I'm going to try to get it emailed over to you, John, and you guys there at the Sentinel, but if somebody wants to copy and paste it, if you like it and you're interested, you have my permission to certainly run that, and I would love that.
All right. Sounds good. We'll look it up.
Awesome, guys. Okay, we're just at the 9 o'clock hour. So I think we're getting dialed in over at Freedom Corner. Give me 1 second.
Well, listen to him.
I gotta say, I love that we do the fight at the end now. So
Yes,
everybody's
indeed.
coming together right now.
Get ready for our lip syncing.
Here we go, guys. What so proudly we hailed at the twilight bright and bright stars through the perilous fight, for the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's bright light above bursting in air, they flew through the night, and our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave. USA! 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 Fight, fight, fight! Fight, fight, fight! Fight, fight, fight!
Thank you, guys.
I got the letter.
Absolutely.
I got the letter.
Awesome, awesome.
We'll see if John has.
Oh, you found it?
I found it.
John's deadline is
Awesome.
Sunday, maybe. Still have time.
I mean, what's
This letter.
I know gives him go what's his address.
Right there.
John's deadline is Sunday, maybe he has room in his Sentinel for August. That's fine.
Better send it to him quick.
I will.
Awesome. Well,
If you're
that
listening, John.
would be awesome, guys. And real quick, I believe there's the email address, because, you know, I'm just going to be proactive. If you guys, I'm going to have my mom send you guys a picture if that would be helpful to, you know, anything, if you decide to run anything. Is the email address is on the Northern Next Sentinel, on the paper, is that correct?
Correct. Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm, you know,
Second
it would be
page.
awesome to see myself in there, but I know there's a lot of good stories, and I, you know, I really, the guys in here greatly appreciate it. It's funny because I think now only James Grant, who, another one of those guys I failed to mention earlier, you know, one of my best friends from in here, someone I play basketball with every day, another one of those guys who, you know, the government, he's done almost, if not more than 3 years. I think he's the only guy in here now that was there at Northern Neck. But definitely one of those guys. He should be in his 3rd year in law school, and instead he's here in jail with me. And definitely somebody that is deserving and warranting of a pardon. I'm going to be honest, I've not met anybody that I think doesn't deserve one. And I just, you know, it's another Friday night in the Patriot Pod. They've turned over, apparently we've got a new deputy director here on the CTS side of things. But last week, I don't know, I'm sure your listeners know, we get what's called late night rec on Friday and Saturdays, or we used to, where they let us stay out a little bit later. They abruptly canceled that in the middle of our, you know, enjoyment of that last week. I'm sure guys, you know, we talked about how they're trying to force the integration of the pod. We had a hunger strike that lasted for, you know, we did a 3-month fast at the beginning of the month. And then when we threatened and refused the trays that first day, within literally less than 3 minutes, we had administrators on the unit asking, you know, what was going on, what was the purpose of that. But there's been some pushback. You know, every action has a reaction. So, you know, we don't know if we're going to get that tonight. They've started forcing us to lock all of our doors 24/7, which, you know, to be a, you know, it's crazy to even say this, I'm going to be a 35-year-old man later this year, to have to ask somebody else if it's okay if I go to the bathroom or to grab some clean socks after a workout is frustrating. But ultimately, you know, everything we do in here is for a, you know, utilitarian purpose and for a greater good. And so I'm absolutely ready to go home. It's still an honor and a pleasure to be here amongst some of the best men and patriots that I've ever met in my entire life. And again, you know, I appreciate everything you guys do. I will say they just posted, you know, the only news outside of the Northern Next Sentinel that we get in here is Scripps News on the television, and they're showing the, you know, coronated Kamala going on her little her show stop tour, and unfortunately, it sounds like she'll be making a stop in Savannah, Georgia, where I call home. So I've got to contact my people out there and find out what's going on. President Trump has, though it's Georgia and we know it's a red state outside of Atlanta and Savannah. Well, Atlanta and Savannah are two very blue cities, but I know my friends from the Chatham Free Press, the Savannah Freedom Exchange, the Chatham County GOP, and some of the other organizations out there are still active and very much, it's Trump country in Chatham County, it's Trump country in Savannah, despite what they tried to do on Election Day in 2020 and going forward. I'm just ready to get home, guys. I'm ready to get back out and do what I love doing, which is sharing, like you guys do there at the Sentinel, sharing the stories about what's going on in my community and being a part of the political process. And I know I still am. Everybody in here is playing a role in making America great again, keeping America great, and we all have a story to tell. But it's crazy. It's just crazy to. The election year, that's my Super Bowl, and it's just to be watching it from behind bars. At this point, there's really nowhere else. I told my attorney months ago, I said, man, if we're going to delay it this long, just let me stay through Election Day. And he was like, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to, if you could go home, why wouldn't you? And it's, I don't want to be stuck in Philadelphia at some transfer center on my way to prison. I don't want to be let out a week before, even though it would be great. The thought of getting out a week or two before the election and missing it with these men is not something I wanted to have happen. So now, undeniably, given the fact that I still don't have a verdict, I know I'm going to be here through the election, but it's still tough. So I'm just looking forward to watching it in here with the men, watching President Trump take off with his third victory, and hopefully this one stands as the first one.
Yeah. Well, that's thanks for sharing that, because that's interesting. Well, you echo a lot of the same sentiments that others do about the rapport and relationships you guys have in there, and I hear you loud and clear. The judges don't like hearing that, but it's the truth, right? So it is what it is.
Well, they have, and I know until we get those pardons and until our records are cleared and our conduct vindicated, they want to keep us from associating, but despite what the news tells you, you've not thrown a bunch of terrorists or domestic extremists together. You've thrown a bunch of great men together who otherwise, and women in their pod, who otherwise may never have met. I know that I've made in here friends that I'm going to have for life, contacts and connections that I'm going to keep up with when I get out of here. I'm watching, right now, people that haven't been sentenced. I'm watching a young 26-year-old man, run a multi-million-dollar business in here. Somebody who's teaching me about real estate. I've met some of the most Christian and holy men, not only holy men, but Christ-like individuals I've ever met. I've met people from multiple walks of faith. Multiple different languages are spoken in here. I'm learning American Sign Language, and I'm really just meeting men from all 50 states. And it's something, again, I've said before, I don't want anybody to ever have to go to jail unless they absolutely deserve it. But coming in here and meeting some of these men has been, it's weird to say the opportunity of a lifetime, but I'm taking it for what it is. I'm getting stronger every day. I've read more books in the past year than I have in my life. And I'm working out. I'm getting mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually stronger, and making some great connections along the way. And for that, I appreciate it.
Well, that's a great attitude. Yeah. I didn't realize James is the only one left in there that has been through Northern Neck at this point. That's the
you guys.
The longest ones too.
Yeah. I know. So David Dempsey has his sentencing next Friday on the 9th, and then, as far as the old guard, he's the last original. Then it goes as far as, seniority and length of time in here. It goes down to Chris Moyer, James Grant, Chris Moyer, Daniel Ball, and I think then myself, which is crazy. They really kind of turned it out. And I know there's a couple other guys. There's a couple other guys on another unit that have been here for a little while as well. And ultimately, I'm ready for everybody to go home. They're just, don't believe what the news says about people. I've not met anybody in here that I would consider a menace to society or a shameful disgrace or anything like that. I've met some people who, and I shared this, with some people. I'm sure not everybody would repeat all the actions and things that they did that day, but ultimately the men that were there know why they were there. They know what they were standing up for, and they were advocating for things, but just given the opportunity to share and truly explain themselves in an objective way, I think it's something that all of America would agree with, because they weren't there for themselves. They weren't there standing up for any self-motivated interest. It was for the American people, for the democratic institutions and our constitutional republic that we all hold so dear. It's an interesting thing to be a part of, but one that, like I said, I'm thankful for, and that's a weird thing to say. But guys, I'm rambling now. I just wanted to again say thank you so much, Cheryl, for sending that. Thank you guys for looking everything up and for doing everything that you do. I hope at some point my mom's able to meet some of you guys, because she's a big fan of all the work you do, and the guys in here appreciate again the opportunity to share our stories with you all.
Well, that's fantastic, Dominic. Thanks so much, and yeah, give your mom our best. I'm excited that you're going to see her next week. That's really cool.
Absolutely, guys. We'll talk to you next week. God bless you all. God bless America. And fight, fight, fight.
Fight, 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 fight.
You have 1 minute
Nice job.
remaining. Thank you for using Global Tellink.
That's good.
Yeah, that was good. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. We're signing off, and we'll see you next week. And by the way, tomorrow, Saturday, of course, is the big event in D.C., so I'm going to be up there for that, and we'll be back here on Friday.
It's their 2-year anniversary. They're having a celebration. But you can watch it. It's going to be streamlined, so you can watch it.
I'll